Hello fam, thank you for coming to watch this video and to be disappointed by the things that are happening in the United Nations General Assembly. They just left the ICC, and I think someone has to leave the UN. Come on, man. Someone has to leave the UN.
How many times has Dr. Rikana Chiompori been telling us that we need to get out?
Yeah, someone has to leave the UN, because this is something that we meet, we eat, we spend the taxes of our people, and nothing will be done. But a lot of disappointments came from one of the youngest presidents in Africa, Faye, where he went to thank France. Imagine, first you reported yesterday that he was very confused because he shared a whole different speech from whatever he wanted. Then when he got his speech after some minutes, this guy starts by thanking France for their great leadership. Then he goes ahead to talk about Gaza. I mean, haven't you left the biggest eyesore or disturbance in Africa, which is terrorism, in your neighboring countries? Like your Senegal, just to your east there's Mali, Niger, and at the south of this country is Burkina Faso, Nigeria, terrorists, and someone funds this terrorism and you are not talking about it. I mean, what are you? This guy really disappointed us. I mean, he's been disappointing us since the time that we were called by Trump and he would request for a golf
course.
Then he runs to France. Now in the UNGA he's praising France for their good leadership. I mean, you're the president. Praise yourself for being a good leader in your country, not praising another president for being a good leader.
Your colleague.
And you know your neighbors, your brother neighbors have just expelled his people out because
I think it was a reassurance for France that don't worry, I'll say it in front of the world that you are the best, we are not leaving. He said that he can't leave them just like that.
So we can talk about several leaders who made us happy. We saw the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Regional Cooperation and Burkina Faso from the External Affairs, that is Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré. Is the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Burkina, and they went together with the Minister of the Prime Minister Rimtalba Jean Emmanuel Wedrogo. And on I think Tuesday, the Foreign Minister, which is Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré, said there's no point in coming to the UN tribune to call for peace, and behind the scenes some of these nations are funding terrorism. You know what this guy never said? Then we saw the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso saying that he said, get out of the complacent narrative, towards the terrorists, urging the UN to name their sponsors to better combat the phenomenon. And during the hearing in New York, with the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, Amina Mohammed, the head of Burkina Faso government explained the many efforts made by the people under the leadership of President Traoré in the fight against terrorism. And the minister has asked to avoid stroking terrorists in the hair, referring to certain institutions attempting to legitimize the atrocities of these killers by designating them as non-state armed group. And he called for them for getting out of the narrative of avoiding citing the sponsors of terrorism. And he said that many countries are making terrorism a tool of serving the people who are returning to the UN panel to talk about peace. This is the guy. And he said this, as long as the organization remains in a position of companionship that respects national priorities, we will remain open to a frank and transparent partnership. Then we also saw another person. We saw the president of Kenya. He's very unpopular.
The good speaker.
We know you hate him. And this time he made sense. He said, you cannot claim to be the United Nations while disregarding the voices of the 54 nations. It is impossible.
You cannot claim to be the United Nations while disregarding the voice of 54 nations. It is not possible. Africa is no longer willing to wait on the margins of global governance while decisions about peace, security, and development are made without our understanding, without our perspectives, and without our voice. Africa's exclusion is not only unacceptable, unfair, and grossly unjust, it also undermines the very credibility of the United Nations, this organization. Africa dominates most of the Security Council agenda, provides some of the largest contingents of UN peacekeeping forces, and bears the heaviest costs of instability. Yet we remain the only continent without a permanent seat at the main table where decisions about our destiny are made.
Africa dominates much of the Security Council's agenda, provides some of the largest contingents of UN peacekeepers, and bears the heaviest cost of instability, yet we remain the only continent without a permanent seat. As in, Africa dominates much of the Security Council's agenda because much of the war is happening in Africa.
Terrorism,
we talk about
everything.
West African terrorism, we talk about Congo, we talk about Sudan right now, where young people, old people are being killed.
So it's like being
And the
gossiped
problem-
about and you have nobody representing you and stating the facts as they are.
Yeah, and the problem with this guy is this guy, they were the local newspaper sometimes cited him as being one of the peoples who are, doing arms trafficking to this country so that war can continue. And we know that they started a parallel government of Sudan in this country. So it's just beautiful
That's
words, right?
ironies, yeah.
He also talks about climate change because he loves climate change. Then we go to the president of Namibia, who called for the relief of sanctions for
Zimbabwe,
Zimbabwe,
Venezuela.
Zimbabwe and Venezuela. Then he also talked about
She.
climate. Okay, she's the lady who also made the vice president lady. She talked about climate change, saying that the Namibia is being affected by climate change. A lot of things. She made sense. Calling for the removal of sanctions
The
was
Western Sahara also.
exactly. But why do they keep talking about climate change? And the people who fund the UN, Trump himself.
Global warming, not happening. It used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail.
And he said the United Nations lies and steals money from the entire world. All countries should leave this masquerade.
That's why they stopped the escalator from moving when he was going up. He's exposing a lot. Did you see the video?
No.
Trump was he was climbing up the escalator and some technical issues just happened and it stopped moving. He was saying, if the lady in front of me was not in good shape, we could have both of us fallen. But because we're in good shape, we were safe. It's so I think we need to get the video.
I need to repeat, they say climate change is the biggest scam ever organized. The United Nations lies and steals money from the entire world. All countries should leave this masquerade.
That's Trump.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
concur.
shut down US aid.
I concur. Seriously, they should. Then we can go to the next president, who is the president of the Central African Republic, one of the poorest countries in Africa. And he said it's time for the injustices inflicted on Africa to be rectified. His name is Faustin Ashaj Tudera. And he said it's unacceptable to see poverty worsening in Africa, where wealth accumulates in the northern countries. It is time for injustices inflicted on Africa to be rectified. And then he added, how can we speak of security and international justice when the continent of tomorrow is treated like that of yesterday? He said the Central African Republic carries the voice of Africa here to say enough. Africa must have 2 permanent seats with veto power, not as a favor, but as a matter of justice, not as a privilege, but as a necessity. He also talked about Global Conflict Prevention Fund financed by major powers and managed transparently. That's what he proposed. He also advocated for systematizing the creation of regional coalitions of mediators capable of acting in complement to the United Nations to prevent local dispute from escalating in open war. He said a lot of things.
But this story of veto power and having a seat, I mean, when was the UN formed? Don't you think these people know we need it and we deserve it? They know. Why aren't they doing it?
But I think because they don't want to leave. What they are pushing for is power, which is okay. I think it's okay because the countries with the veto power like China, US, France, Russia, and we have seen the US doing a lot of damage, especially in Gaza, by pulling out their veto powers in support of the Israeli. So this guy said a lot of things, but all of them are, creation of the Charter of Digital Government, creation of this. It's something that can make sense if he was implementing in his own country. But we know how Central African Republic is, and he remains like the king. You remember his son went to Russia and he caused a lot of commotion in the airport, saying, "You cannot tell me what to do." And we can talk lastly about the president of Sierra Leone, who called for ceasefires in Gaza, Sudan, and Ukraine. This one is good. He talked about Sudan because nobody is talking about Sudan.
Congo,
they already went to the US. They did their own thing, but still happening. I saw our very own Larry Madowo reporting that he was in Congo, the Eastern Congo, to interview the M23, and he says nothing has changed. The M23 don't recognize the deal that was made between Congo and the M23. They fight for their people. They still own the eastern province of what is it called, Goma. Yeah, so good for them. Then he called for ceasefires, urging the UN to honor its funding commitment to save succeeding generations from the salvage of war. Then he talked about climate change, an existential threat to Sierra Leone, blah, 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 a lot of things. But why do these people keep... Then he also demanded for 2 permanent seats for Africa, just like Todera. But why do they keep on talking about
climate change?
Their
agenda.
Then Basiru Diomaye Faye spoke about the bombings in Gaza and called for a political solution. He never talked anything about Africa.
He's not African.
He's French. So those are some of what we can get from the presidents who represented Africa. But the biggest disappointment comes from our very own Senegalese president, Diomaye Faye. I think
you always trusted in the guy.
No, I trusted Osman Sonko. Because right now, do you even hear Sonko?
Are you turning your back against him? Faye. No,
I told you I trusted Sonko.
No, brothers and sisters, please remind him that he has always been the biggest supporter, giving him time.
Of Sonko, Osman Sonko, the next president of Senegal. They said Sonko, Diomaye.
Do you think France will let it happen?
No, we Africans and we the people of Senegal will make it happen.
Brothers and sisters, those are the summaries of the speeches that we're able to get from the UN General Assembly. Most of them are very disappointing, even from the Kenyan president. It's not like he speaks what he does. It's just speeches.
Yeah, actually, this one that he talked about, he talked about the UN, his mission in Haiti, where he sent, by the support of the US, he sent police to Haiti, and I think 3 have been killed, and one of them, the family keeps on calling for more information, and they'll be told that this guy is just missing, he's not dead, and nobody told them that he's really dead until they heard it from
An announcement.
the president talking in the UN, like saying his name. And it was very painful for the family, guys, that these guys have not been telling you the truth until you learn it from the media. Like, you hear he is already done, and there you never see him again, but the government has been telling you that no, he's just missing, we are looking for him.
But what were the chances of survival when these guys were trying?
There's no, but this guy, the president of Kenya said that he's blaming the UN, the US, that they give them not new cars but already used vehicles.
We need to end it here. If we were to talk about this one,
so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things, but we are seeing people rising against the US. We have seen Venezuela. Is it Venezuela? We've seen Colombia calling on the president of the US and saying, you are calling our people, shooting our people who are not armed because they are militants in the ocean. But the real criminals are in the US, cutting deals to bring immigrants to the US. So, I can say a lot of things.
Let us know what you think about this. Which one stood up for you from all these presidents? Who made sense to you? For me, nobody made sense. We are used to it. Speeches.
The speeches made sense.
No, they don't make sense if it's Traore saying, we will do this, you need to do this because of this, then I'll say everything makes sense.
It's like reading a good story.
Yeah, because look at Jomaifa. He was embarrassed trying to look for the speech that they wrote for him because it's not even something coming from his own head. If it was sincere, he could have stood there and spoken about the issues that he wanted to deliberate on. So none of them made sense to you. I don't know for you, brothers and sisters, who made sense to you?
Guys, let us talk in our WhatsApp group about this. Link is in the description. Just hit the link, you'll be there. We showed you during our live stream. We'll be having another live stream this coming Saturday, and I'm hoping that you join. Please support us by liking this video, sharing, also buying us coffee. Yeah, buying us coffee is the best, because right now I need coffee. And super chat, super thanks, and our merchandise. We see you in the next one. Bye.